everyone. In this video, we're going to go over normal sinus rhythm and the important things that you need to know in order to recognize any kind of dysrhythmias that may come up.
Welcome to CASRN, where I teach you about all things nursing.
All right, we're going to review EKG timing. We're going to go through the 5-step method to solving an EKG, and then we're going to practice. So essentially in normal sinus rhythm, the heart is working perfectly. And it's really important that you're very familiar with this, because if you don't know what normal looks like, it's almost impossible to recognize abnormal. So here's a quick review, and we're just going to go over this really fast. If you're unsure, please make sure to review my EKG basics video that explains this in much more detail. So right here, we've got just a 1-beat EKG rhythm, and it's got a P wave, a QRS complex, which should last less than 0.12 seconds, a T wave, an ST segment, the PR interval, which should last from 0.12 to 0.20 seconds, the QT interval, and the RR interval, which is ultimately your regularity and your rate. So what would happen in this case is that right here, you would have an R, this is your R right here, and then on the next beat, your next R over here that you would have, and you would count in between those. So what you need to know to be able to count rhythms is really these 3 things: the QRS complex, timing, the PR interval, and the RR interval. So let's go over here and talk about the 5-step method. So first off, we're going to want to get rate. Rate is really important. Then we're going to get rhythm. And this is going to tell us if it's regular or irregular. So both of these, what you're really going to need is just the RR interval, which is going to be this one, and then you're going to go over to the next one, and you're going to count the time and the space in between those, because this is going to be your rate. If you have a 6-second strip, you would multiply that by 10 after counting all of your R's, and then the rhythm is going to be the space in between each of those. Then next up, you've got the QRS complex, and this should measure between less than 0.12 seconds. And you get this number by counting the small squares. And remember that each small square is going to be 0.04 seconds, and each big square is going to be 0.20 seconds. Then you've got your PR interval, which should measure between 0.12 and 0.20 seconds. And then you want to check your P, QRS to T ratio, in that you should have 1 of each of these for each heartbeat. So let's go and try a quick practice question to go through this to determine if what we have is indeed normal. So our first thing here that we want to do is we want our rate to be between 60 and 100. So this is what we consider normal. So this strip down here is a 6-second strip. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you could maybe say 9, arguably, on that. So and since this is 6 seconds, there's 60 seconds, so we're just going to take 9, and we're going to times it by 10, and that's going to give us 90. Okay, so we know that this one is indeed normal. So now what we need to do, that same thing, we're going to look at we want to look at our R rhythms, our R to R intervals, and we're going to go down here, we're going to count these small squares in between each one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Then we're going to go to the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And you would go in and you would check all of those, or if you had calipers, this would be a lot easier way to do it, and you're just going to measure the distance in between those. But you can go through and you would count each of these. So we're just going to say that these are all 15. So that means that our rhythm is regular, which is what we want for normal sinus rhythm. So then with our QRX complex, we want it to be less than 0.12. So we're going to come in here and we're going to count them. We've got 1, 2, 3. We're going to look again right here. We've got 1, 2, 3. And we've got 1, 2, 3. All right, so remember that each one of these small squares is 0.04. We have 3, so we're going to times that by 3, and that is going to give us 0.12. So this is also inside the normal ranges. Then we want to check our PR interval. So this is going to be the space with the P, which this is the P wave right here to where it starts. And we also want that to be between 0.12 to 0.20. So we're going to come down here again and we're going to count. So our P waves right here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We'll come over here again. 1, 2, 3. We'll come right here. 1, 2, 3. So we're actually going to have the same number here. We've got the same thing. We've got the 0.04. We're going to multiply that by 3, and that's going to give us the 0.12. And that right here is on the low end of the normal. So we're going to say that that's normal as well. And then the last thing that we're going to check is just to make sure that our ratio is correct. This is the P to the QRS to T ratio, and that we should have one of those for each one. So we've got, like, here's our P, and then we've got our QRS, and then a T. We've got a P, QRS, and a T. A P, QRS, and a T. And you'd want to go through and make sure that that's the case on every single heartbeat, because it might be that you get over here and you've got 2 P waves. And then we're going to know that that is not normal and that we've got either a heart block or an atrial deficiency that's going on there. So make sure you do check every single one of these as you're going through, especially if you've got it on a test question. But in this case, we've got a 1-to-1 ratio on each of our 9 beats that we can see. And we're going to say that that one's correct. So in this case, we are going to call this normal sinus rhythm. So then just a quick review, make sure you check out the EKG basics video if you're not entirely sure on the timing. The 5-step method is a really easy thing that you're going to use to go through all of the various heart rhythms to make sure that they're normal. Make sure that you understand what normal sinus rhythm is, because if you do not understand that, you will not be able to move forward in this and understand the dysrhythmias that may pop up. And practice is always key. The more you practice, the better you're going to be.
Thanks for tuning in. Please help me grow my channel by clicking subscribe and follow below.